Mindspring Merfolk is a really powerful new inclusion into the Merfolk toolbox. I'm pretty excited with this one. After having a wonderful weekend with this over in Charlotte, I have got to say that this deck has gotten a huge power boost with the inclusion of Mindspring Merfolk, because not only does this deck finally have a 1-drop that you can play out early for some really good beats, but it also is just a fantastic card that scales with the entire course of the game because of its exhaustibility of 2 blue and X. You can tap it to draw X amount of cards and then put +1/+1 counters on each Merfolk you control. And even though you can only activate this once, this is an extremely powerful ability to have access to on any 1-drop, because this ability to just always have this late game inevitability with your card advantage is just something that any creature aggro deck would absolutely want in its arsenal. Let us take a look at a common gameplay scenario that happens to any one of us fish players. We're hellbent, we have no cards in hand, we have no creatures on the field, and my opponent is staring down at us in a very similar fashion. We're both looking for an important card to get us out of this top deck war. We're looking and looking and digging and hoping that something gets us out of it, and then, haha, we draw the Mindspring Merfolk off the top. You take a look down at all those lands, you realize I'm about to draw a brand new hand, and you play it, and your opponent is suddenly put on a 1-turn clock, otherwise they are just going to lose the game. This is the power of Mindspring Merfolk, being able to put you in just winning situations where this deck would never ever have any business winning a top deck war against a mid-range deck, a control deck. This is what I really appreciate about this card. It gives you so much power throughout any part of the game, and it's just a solid mid-game, early game, and late game play. Given that last scenario, we now understand the potential ceiling of the card, but what is its floor? Its floor is actually pretty serviceable. In the context of a Merfolk tribal deck, it is really important to just be able to have a 1-drop that you can play proactively to get in your 1 and 2 and 3 points of damage in a deck that had no 1-drop potential historically throughout its time in Modern's existence. But now that we actually properly have more cards that we can play proactively, this is another arsenal in the tool to be able to give you aggressive draws where you can play out lords much more actively. Not only does it do that, but it also just gives you the ability to play at instant speed. Because of its exhaustibility, you can always just hold up mana, meaning that you can hold up a Flare of Denial, a Force of Negation, a Floodpit's Drowner, a Vidalian Hexcatcher, and still all the while, if your opponent doesn't do anything, you can just be like, okay, I'm gonna do all this stuff and then draw some cards or pump my squad and then go back to beating you down while holding up even more mana. And if that's not blue, then I don't know what is, because this card is absolutely cracked. So now that we understand what are the upsides of this card, what it can do, what it wants to do, and how it's supposed to be played in the average game of Magic, what are the downsides of this card? Well, the one thing being is that it is extremely miserable into Bowmasters. As of the recording of this video on April Fool's Day, it is a card that has been super valuable in being able to accrue tons of card advantage against blue-white control and black-white mid-range, or black-white blink, depending on who you are. It has been really powerful in all those facets to be able to gain this incremental card advantage and as well be able to give us tons of tempo. That being said, Bowmasters is not being played, but the moment that Bowmasters comes back, it might be a liability as it can put you really far behind in tempo, as getting your play hit at relatively no cost and also being able to get blown out if you do a really huge X on the exhaustibility, you will be in for a lot of trouble with a giant orc mowing down all of your board. So now that we understand all of the upsides and downsides of this card, where does that leave us now? Why do I want this? Where should I put it in? Well, the most important things to ask yourself is, if you think that you're the unlucky kind of individual that draws one too many lands, then this is a really good card to have, because all those lands that you're unluckily drawing are going to be converted into more cards or more lands, depending on your luck. But if that's not an issue for you, then this is a really good card to have in your local metagame if you're dealing with a lot of black-white mid-range, blue-white control, and other kinds of mid-range strategies. But even if that's not the case, this is just a really good card to have against other aggressive decks because it's able to get in early, block early, attack early, and also be able to be converted into lots of damage. So overall, it's a really solid card to have in your Merfolk tackle box, and I hope you enjoy it before Bowmasters comes and ruins your day. Thank you for watching.